Hey everyone. Okay, so the chapter definitely took a turn I really should have seen coming, but I guess I didn't want to accept what happened, which is that it's revealed that Ginny, after being captured, had become a celestial dragon's wife, and that during the 2-year time period, she birthed a daughter, Bonnie, only to be let go and returned to the lower world. But after returning, had died soon after. And okay, right out of the gate, the fact that Bonnie is a celestial dragon's daughter, I do feel throws a new wrinkle into things, because while she may not care that her father was a celestial dragon by blood, and don't get me wrong, rightfully so, as when you really get down to it, the one thing this chapter proved more than anything else is that Kuma was truly Bonnie's father in the end. Like, Kuma was the one who raised her, took care of her, loved her as his daughter to basically keep, in order to keep Ginny's memory alive. But if I'm looking at this objectively, the fact that Bonnie's father is a celestial dragon by blood does kind of put her more in the spotlight and just throw a new wrinkle into things, where this kind of feels like Oda putting another piece on the board so that when the time comes, even more so than what's happened now in the present day, the celestial dragon's chickens are just absolutely coming home to roost. Like, even more so than what's already happened already with the revolutionaries invading Marie Joie and all that shit. This is saying that yes, like we are going full force ahead. That the celestial dragon's chickens are just coming home to roost. All the things they've done, all the things they've done. It's like it's coming back to bite them in the fucking ass hard. And I think Bonnie is going to be part of that more so now than ever. Because the other thing I'm convinced about after reading this chapter as well is that there really is no going back for Kuma. Kuma is, in a fashion, dead, and I think it's going to be up to Bonnie now to continue the work he started, which would also make sense as to why he left his memory bubble behind for her. Like, it's Kuma's way of saying he does want Bonnie to remember the man he was, and the man she had pretty much loved as her father. But at the same time, I think it's also Kuma's way of saying, please Bonnie, forget about saving me and accept that there's just no going back to those times. Like, Bonnie, I think this is all like the way of saying Bonnie has to move on from this. Like, as much as she wants to kind of save her father, she has to accept that he's dead. He's dead. There is no going back for Kuma. He is just a mindless machine at this point, and I think this is also like Oda's way of putting a pin in it, saying, yeah, like Kuma. There's no saving him. He's gonna be who he is for the rest of his life now, and which is very, very dark way of doing this. I'm not gonna lie. Like, yeah, it's yeah. Now, I suppose there is also a tiny elephant in the room to talk about in this section, which is with Bonnie, which is that we get the reveal that she's kind of actually a little bit younger than what her appearance may have you believe. With Bonnie, we're kind of dealing with a reverse Tsunade situation, where Bonnie is technically 12 years old, but her powers, I guess, have made her look older than she actually is. And honestly, I'm not all that surprised by this, so if you're expecting me to have a big reaction to that reveal, honestly don't have a whole lot to say. But I will say it definitely adds a little bit more tragedy to her backstory now, as regardless of how old she was, she was really only just a child when this whole thing with Kuma went down. And on that note, the end of the chapter pretty much gives us the inciting incident that was likely the last straw for Kuma, as we learn from the citizens that the king of Sorbet Kingdom but is still on his fucking bullshit about cleansing the land, so to speak. And I imagine next chapter is where is where we're gonna see Kuma finally kill the king, and in the aftermath be anointed the new ruler of Sorbet Kingdom by the people, only for the government to basically usurp power back, to usurp power of Sorbet back into their control in some way. But one thing I'm most curious about is how this is all gonna tie into Kuma meeting Vegapunk, because the chapter really hammers home the idea that Bonnie from an early age developed the sapphire scales disease like Ginny, but in the present day, there's really no sign of that being the case. So I think saving Bonnie's life is one of the many things that came packaged with Kuma submitting himself to be controlled by the government, and yeah, and honestly, with just the whole idea that the doctors in the lower world, like even they couldn't find a find a way to cure her. You can probably guess what this is setting up the most, and like you only need to take one guess who would save Bonnie, like Vegapunk, which like Vegapunk is more than likely the one who ended up saving Bonnie from the sapphire scales disease, I imagine, which in itself makes makes me think the tragic twist we're gonna see to this whole situation is Vegapunk is likely save Bonnie, not knowing the deal Kuma made the government until later, or something to that effect. Like it kind of feels like that's what's going, like that's what Oda's setting up here. That when it comes to what happened with the Kuma and Vegapunk and all that, I think Vegapunk had wanted to save Bonnie just purely out of the kindness of his heart, but then much later after he saved her, like Vegapunk was assigned in order to turn Kuma into a pacifista. So it's like, yeah, it's kind of, I think that's kind of the weird twist of fate Oda's setting up here. And more than anything, honestly, at this point, I feel this chapter added the most amount of emotional weight to Kuma's character, displaying all the sins and burdens he's been carrying all these years, yet still looking towards the future, always trying to ensure the ones he cares about can live that free and happy life, even if it means at the sacrifice of his own freedom and his own happiness. Like, the only time I do think he did reach a genuine breaking point is, again, with the King of Sorbet and just dealing with the grief of Ginny's death, where he realized too little too late at how much he did genuinely love, and that love for his countrymen, for Ginny, for Bonnie, those are things that in some way have also served as his personal shackles. They're things that have chained him the most. As schlocky as it might be to say, Kuma has only ever been a slave to one thing: love and devotion. Like love and this kind of undying devotion to those he cares about, whether that be Ginny, Bonnie, his revolutionary comrades, the people of Sorbet. They are all people he cares about and has fought to protect, even now when he's nothing more than an emotionless machine. Like, he's always been the one to make the biggest sacrifices, and honestly, I really want to see what Bonnie or even Dragon will do in the present day in response to this, because, I mean, we kind of already know what the former is probably going to do, but yeah, if Dragon is also learning about this, all of this, or aware of it, then I get the feeling he's going to start increasing the frequency of his attacks in response. But yeah, we'll see. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got from this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and LS Crunchyroll, push the notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight of a Night signing off. Later, everyone.